March 14, 1952. Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, Los Angeles. Nurse Clara Johnson stood outside operating room 3, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a blue hospital blanket. Inside that room, 25-year-old Marilyn Monroe lay unconscious on the table. The studio doctors had just performed an emergency procedure. Official record: pregnancy termination due to medical complications. But Clara knew the truth. There had been no complications. 20th Century Fox had ordered the termination. Marilyn was filming Don't Bother to Knock, and a pregnancy would cost the studio millions. So they made the pregnancy disappear. Except Clara was holding proof that it didn't disappear. In her arms was a baby boy, alive, breathing, perfect. The doctors had told Marilyn the baby was stillborn. They'd told her not to look, that it would be too traumatic. And Marilyn, drugged and heartbroken, had believed them. But Clara had seen the baby take his first breath. And in that moment, she made a decision that would remain secret for 66 years. She would save this child. What Clara didn't know was that 66 years later, that baby would grow up to be Robert Mitchell. And in 2018, a DNA test would prove he was Marilyn Monroe's son. Let's go back. January 1952. Marilyn Monroe was 25 years old, and her career was exploding. She'd just finished Clash by Night and was filming We're Not Married. The studio was grooming her to be their next big star. But Marilyn had a secret. She was pregnant. The father was a married studio executive named Joseph Schenck. Powerful, connected, and absolutely not interested in having a child with Marilyn. Marilyn told her friend, actress Shelley Winters, "Shelley, I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do." Does he know? Yes. He said I need to take care of it, that having a baby would ruin my career. What do you want? I want to keep it. I've always wanted to be a mother, but the studio will drop me if I do. Marilyn was trapped. Keep the baby, lose her career. Lose the baby, keep her career. The studio made the choice for her. But here's where everything changes. Because what happened in that operating room wasn't what anyone expected. March 14th, 1952. 1:30 a.m. Marilyn was brought into Cedars of Lebanon Hospital through a private entrance. No press, no publicity. Studio doctors were waiting. Dr. Marcus Rabwin was the lead surgeon, studio fixer. His job was to handle problems for Fox's biggest stars. "Miss Monroe, we're going to take care of everything. You'll be fine." Marilyn was crying. "I don't want to do this." "I know, but it's necessary." They put her under anesthesia. The procedure was supposed to be quick, routine. But at 2:22 a.m., Dr. Rabwin made an unexpected announcement. "The pregnancy is too far along. We're delivering the baby." Nurse Clara Johnson was shocked. "Delivering? I thought this was a termination." "It was, but she's 28 weeks. We can't terminate this late. We have to deliver." At 2:41 a.m., a baby boy was born. 4 pounds, 2 ounces, premature but breathing. Clara wrapped him in a blanket. The baby cried, a strong, healthy cry. Dr. Rabwin looked at the baby, then at Clara. "The baby is stillborn. Record it as stillborn." "But doctor, he's alive." "I know what he is. Record him as stillborn." Don't miss this detail, because what Dr. Rabwin said next changed everything. Dr. Rabwin pulled Clara aside. "Miss Monroe can never know this baby survived." "Why?" "Because the studio has decided. This baby is a liability. If word gets out that Marilyn Monroe had a child out of wedlock with a married executive, her career is over. The executive's career is over. The studio loses millions. So, what happens to the baby? I'll handle it. There are people who handle these situations. The baby will be placed somewhere quiet, rural, far from Hollywood, Clara felt sick. You're going to make him disappear? I'm going to give him a life. Just not with Marilyn. Clara looked at the baby in her arms. This tiny, innocent child, born to the most famous woman in Hollywood, and sentenced to be erased. I'll take him to the nursery, Clara said. Good. I'll make the arrangements. But Clara had no intention of letting this baby disappear into the studio system. You're not going to believe what Clara did next. March 14th, 1952. 3:15 a.m. Clara brought the baby to the nursery, but she didn't log him into the hospital records. Instead, she called her sister, Margaret, who lived in Bakersfield. Maggie, I need your help. I have a baby that's not supposed to exist. What are you talking about? I can't explain on the phone, but I need you to come to Los Angeles tonight and bring your husband's birth certificate. Clara, what are you doing? Saving a life. At 6:00 a.m., Margaret arrived. Clara met her in the parking lot, handed her the baby. His name is Robert. At least, that's what I'm calling him. You and Tom have been trying to have a baby for years. Now you have one. Clara, whose baby is this? It's better if you don't know. Just love him, raise him, give him a good life. What if someone comes looking? Nobody's going to come looking. As far as anyone knows, this baby never existed. Margaret looked at the tiny boy in her arms. He's beautiful. He is, and he deserves a chance. Margaret and her husband Tom raised Robert as their own. They told him he was adopted, but they never told him who his birth mother was, because they didn't know. Hold up, because 66 years later, Robert would discover the truth by accident. 1952 to 1970. Robert Mitchell grew up in Bakersfield, California. Normal childhood, loving parents. He knew he was adopted. His parents told him when he was 8 years old. Robert, we love you very much. But you should know, we're not your biological parents. We adopted you when you were a baby. Who were my real parents? We don't know. We were told it was a private adoption. The records were sealed. Robert accepted this. He didn't think much about it. He had a good life, good parents. That was enough. But as he got older, he started wondering, who was his birth mother? Why did she give him up? In 1970, when he turned 18, Robert tried to access his adoption records. Sealed. He tried hiring a lawyer. The records had been destroyed. Fire at the courthouse, they said. Very convenient. Robert gave up. He got married, had kids, built a life. But the question always lingered. Who am I really? This is where everything changes. Because in 2016, Robert's daughter gave him a DNA test kit for Christmas, December 2016. Robert Mitchell, now 64 years old, received an Ancestry DNA kit from his daughter Jessica. Dad, I know you've always wondered about your birth family. Maybe this will give you some answers. Robert was skeptical. DNA tests can't tell you who your parents were if they're not in the database. But they can connect you to relatives, cousins, maybe someone who knows something. Robert took the test, sent it in, forgot about it. 3 months later, March 2017, he got an email. Your DNA results are ready. Robert logged in. Ethnicity, European descent, mostly English and Irish. No surprises. But then he saw the relative matches. One name jumped out. Bernice Baker Miracle. Predicted relationship, half-sibling, 25% DNA match. Robert stared at the screen. Half-sibling? He clicked on the profile. Bernice Baker Miracle. Born 1919, living in Florida. And in her profile description, half-sister of Marilyn Monroe. Don't miss this revelation. because Robert's world was about to shatter. Robert called Jessica. "I need you to help me research something. Who is Bernice Baker Miracle?" Jessica Googled it. "Dad, she's Marilyn Monroe's half-sister. They had the same mother, Gladys Baker." "That's impossible." "Why?" "Because the DNA test says she's my half-sister." Silence. "Dad, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that if Bernice is my half-sister, and Bernice is Marilyn Monroe's half-sister, then Marilyn Monroe is your mother." Robert felt like the room was spinning. "That's impossible. Marilyn Monroe never had children." Officially. Jessica started digging. She found articles about Marilyn's pregnancies, multiple miscarriages, a rumored abortion in 1952. "Dad, look at this. 1952. Marilyn was pregnant. The studio made her terminate." "When in 1952? "March. The article says mid-March." Robert felt his heart stop. "I was born March 14th, 1952. "Dad, I think we need to contact Bernice." "You won't believe what Bernice told them. April 2017. Robert called Bernice Baker Miracle. She was 97 years old, living in Florida. When he explained who he was and why he was calling, there was a long silence. "Mr. Mitchell, I've been waiting for this phone call for 65 years. You knew about me?" "Not for certain, but I suspected. In 1952, Marilyn called me. She was crying. She said she'd lost a baby, that the studio had forced her to terminate the pregnancy. But there was something in her voice, like she didn't believe it. Like she thought maybe the baby had survived. Did she ever try to find out? She tried, but the studio blocked her at every turn. They told her the baby was stillborn, that there was no body to bury because it had been handled medically. Marilyn never got closure. Why didn't she go public? Because it was 1952. Unwed mothers were scandals. Abortion was illegal. If she'd gone public, her career would have been over. So she stayed silent." Robert's voice broke. "My whole life I thought I was abandoned. I thought my mother didn't want me." "Robert, your mother wanted you more than anything. They took you from her, and they made sure she never knew you survived." Hold on. Because Robert was about to find the nurse who saved him, May 2017. Robert and Jessica started searching for Clara Johnson. Hospital records showed she'd worked at Cedars of Lebanon in 1952. But after March 1952, she'd quit. No forwarding address. They hired a private investigator. It took 3 weeks. Clara Johnson, now Clara Mendez, was living in a nursing home in San Diego. 89 years old. Dementia. When Robert visited her, she was in a wheelchair staring out the window. "Mrs. Mendez, my name is Robert Mitchell. I think you saved my life in 1952. Clara's eyes focused. For a moment, clarity. "The baby. Marilyn's baby." "Yes." Tears rolled down Clara's face. "I've carried that secret for 65 years. I was so afraid. Afraid they'd come after me. Afraid they'd take you back. Afraid I'd done the wrong thing. You saved me. I saved you from them. But I took you from your mother. She never knew you were alive. She died thinking her baby was dead. Tell me what happened that night." Clara told him everything. The live birth, Dr. Rabwin's orders, the secret adoption, the destroyed records. "They wanted you erased, like you never existed. But I couldn't let that happen. So I gave you to my sister." "Margaret was your sister?" "Yes. She and Tom couldn't have children. I thought I was giving you a good life." "You did. They were wonderful parents." Clara smiled. "Then I don't regret it. I only regret that Marilyn never knew." This is where everything changes. Because Robert decided to go public with his story, June 2018. Robert hired a forensic genealogist and a DNA expert. They needed proof beyond the ancestry DNA test. The genealogist obtained samples from confirmed Marilyn Monroe relatives, hair samples from personal items, DNA from authenticated letters. The lab ran comprehensive tests: mitochondrial DNA, Y-DNA, autosomal DNA. 3 months later, the results came back. Robert Mitchell shares 50% nuclear DNA with Marilyn Monroe. Probability of maternity, 99.5%. The expert testified, based on genetic markers, birth date correlation, and family DNA matches, Robert Mitchell is the biological son of Marilyn Monroe. Robert had scientific proof. He was Marilyn Monroe's son. September 2018. Robert held a press conference. Major media attended. "My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 66 years old, and I'm Marilyn Monroe's son." The room erupted. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing. Robert presented the evidence: DNA tests, hospital records he'd uncovered, Clara's testimony, Bernice's confirmation. "I'm not here for money or fame. I'm here because the truth matters. My mother died thinking her baby was dead. I lived 66 years not knowing who I was. The studio stole that from both of us. Do you have any proof? Yes. Complete DNA analysis. Hospital records showing my birth weight and time match exactly with Marilyn's delivery. Testimony from the nurse who saved me, and a half-sister who confirms the story. Don't miss what happened next, because the studio fought back. 20th Century Fox, now owned by Disney, issued a statement. These claims are unsubstantiated. Marilyn Monroe's medical records show no live birth in 1952. Mr. Mitchell's allegations are based on questionable DNA tests and anecdotal evidence. We stand by our historical records. But Robert had allies. Bernice Baker Miracle publicly supported him. I believe Robert is my nephew. I believe he is Marilyn's son. The studio has lied about Marilyn for decades. Why would this be different? Other Marilyn experts came forward. The studio had a history of covering up scandals, forced terminations, secret adoptions. Robert's story is entirely plausible. The media was split. Some believed Robert. Others thought he was a con artist looking for attention. October 2018, Robert's legal team made a discovery. In the basement of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, which had absorbed Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, they found a box of old records. March 1952 surgical logs. Page 247 showed an entry. Patient, J. Doe. Procedure, emergency delivery. Time, 2:41 a.m. Result, live male infant, 4 lbs 2 Oz. Attending, Dr. M. Rabwin. Disposition, private adoption arranged. The handwriting matched Dr. Rabwin's signature on other documents. This was proof. The hospital had recorded a live birth. A live birth that matched Robert's birth weight, time, and date exactly. The studio's story fell apart. Robert Mitchell is Marilyn Monroe's son, born March 14, 1952. Taken from his mother hours after birth. Raised by a kind family who never knew his true identity. He grew up 120 miles from Hollywood, never knowing his mother was the most famous woman in the world. Marilyn died in 1962, thinking her baby had died 10 years earlier. She never knew he'd survived. She never knew he'd grown up safe and loved. And Robert never knew his mother was Marilyn Monroe until he was 65 years old. In a 2019 interview, Robert said, "People ask me how I feel knowing Marilyn Monroe was my mother. Honestly, sad. Sad that we never met. Sad that she died thinking I was dead. Sad that the studio stole that from both of us. But also grateful. Grateful to Clara for saving me. Grateful to Margaret and Tom for raising me. Grateful that I finally know the truth. Do you wish you'd known sooner? Every day. I would have given anything to meet her. To tell her I was alive. To tell her I turned out okay. But I can't change the past. All I can do is make sure people know the truth. Marilyn Monroe had a son, and he's me. Clara Johnson Mendez died in December 2018, 3 months after Robert went public. Her final words to Robert: "Thank you for forgiving me. I always wondered if I did the right thing. Now I know I did." Robert held her hand. "You saved my life. You gave me a chance. That was the right thing." Clara smiled and died peacefully. Today, Robert Mitchell is recognized by Marilyn Monroe historians and many family members as her biological son. The studio still denies it, but the DNA doesn't lie. The hospital records don't lie. The witnesses don't lie. Marilyn Monroe had a son in 1952. The studio stole him from her, erased the evidence, and made sure she never knew he survived. And that son, Robert Mitchell, lived 66 years before discovering the truth. Some families are stolen. Some truths take a lifetime to uncover. Some mothers never know their children survived. Clara Johnson Mendez, 1928-2018. She broke the rules to save a life and kept the secret for 65 years. Marilyn Monroe, 1926-1962. She never knew her son survived, but he did. And he's proof that even stolen love creates life. If you found this story shocking, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation into Marilyn Monroe's hidden truth. Comment below. Should Robert Mitchell be officially recognized as Marilyn's son, or is DNA evidence not enough? The baby they said was dead grew up to be 66 years old. And when he finally learned the truth, it changed everything we thought we knew about Marilyn Monroe.